Hi, fourth grade. Today we're going to be learning how to simplify fractions. So just to review, a fraction is when you express part of a whole. So you break a whole into equal parts, and then typically only part of those parts are shaded or expressed in that fraction. So this fraction would be pronounced 12/34, and we need to remember that the bottom number in a fraction is called a denominator. That's how many equal parts the whole is broken into. The top fraction is called the numerator. So that's how many of those parts we are accounting for in this fraction. In yesterday's lesson, we learned about common factors. Well, first of all, a factor is two or more numbers that can be multiplied to give a product. So when we are looking for factors, we're looking for for numbers that can go into a certain number equally. So for example, in 18, we know that 1 can be multiplied by another number to equal 18. So 1 is a factor. We also know that 2 can go into 18 equally. 2 times 9 equals 18. So 2 is a factor. 3 also goes into 18 equally. 3 times 6 is 18, so 3 is a factor. 4, is that a factor? Well, I know that I can't multiply any number times 4 to make it go into 18 equally. So since 4 times nothing is 18, 4 is not a factor. Is 5 a factor? Well, 5 times 3 is 15, 5 times 4 is 20, so no, 5 is not a factor. 6, yes. 6 times 3 equals 18, so 6 is a factor. 7, nope. 8, nope. 9, yeah. And 18. So the factors of 18 in order are 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, and 18. Okay? Well, again, we're looking for common factors. So in order to find common factors, you have to list the factors of each number and then figure out which factors they both have. So for example, we want to find the common factors of 18 and 24. So we've already listed the factors of 18. Now we need to list the factors of 24. So here I've listed the factors of 24. I know 1 times 24 equals 24, 2 times 12 equals 24, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. So in order to find the common factors, we need to figure out which ones they both have. So 18 and 24 both have 1 as a factor, and this should be a review. We've already done this in class. They both have 2 as a factor. They both have 3, they both have 6, but they don't share 9, 12, 18, or 8 as a common factor. So these are the common factors of the two. In order to find a fraction in simplest form, the numerator and the denominator can have no common factor other than 1. So let's go ahead and list the common factors of our numerator and our denominator. So again, we'll make a T-chart just like I had before, and I'm going to go ahead and list the factors of 2 and list the factors of 6 and see which factors they have in common. So I've listed the factors of 2 and I've listed the factors of 6. 2 is my numerator, 6 is my denominator. The only factors of 2 are 1 and 2. The factors of 6 are 1, 2, 3, and 6. So we can see that they have 1 and 2 in common. This tells us that 2/6 is not in its simplest form, because in order to be in simplest form, the numerator and the denominator, their common factor can only be 1. So this is not in simplest form, and we're going to learn how to simplify it right now. So first of all, let's just go ahead and look at some fractions and practice figuring out whether they're in simplest form or not. So this first one, our first example, is 1/3. So again, the way that we figure out if it's in simplest form is we list all of the factors of the numerator and all of the factors of the denominator. That's the first step. So obviously the only factor of 1 is 1. The factors of 3 are 1 and 3. So now that we've listed the factors of our numerator and listed the factors of our denominator, we need to look at what factors they have in common. Well, in this case, the only common factor is 1. So 1/3 is in its simplest form. You cannot make it any smaller. You cannot break this number down. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and look at 5/10. So again, we have to list the factors of both of these numbers. So here I've listed the factors of my numerator. The factors of 5 are 1 and 5. There are no other factors. The factors of 10 are 1, 2, 5, and 10. We know 1 times 10 is 10, 2 times 5 is 10. So we're going to now look for common factors. Well, they both have a factor of 1, and we see they both also have a factor, excuse my horrible drawing, they also have a factor of 5. So this number is not in simplest form. Okay, it is. We can make this a smaller fraction, a more simple fraction. Okay, and then again, let's look at our last example, 4/9. When we look at 4/9, and I've listed the factors of my numerator, I've listed the factors of my denominator, we see that the only factor that they have in common is 1. So is this fraction in simplest form? Yes, it is. Once you've decided or you've found out that a fraction is not in its simplest form, you then need to go ahead and simplify it. So the way that you do that is like the same steps we did before. We listed the factors of the numerator and the denominator. You find the common factors, and you find the GCF. So remember, the GCF stands for greatest common factor. Okay, so if we looked back at this example, 5/10, the largest number, the largest factor they have in common is 5. So for this number, for this fraction, the GCF would be 5. Okay, so once you've determined the GCF, you need to divide the numerator by the GCF and the denominator by the GCF. So it's that same rule, do to the top what you do to the bottom, or do to the bottom what you do to the top. So here I've listed the factors of my numerator. My numerator is 6. So the only factors of 6 are 1, 2, 3, and 6. And then down here I've listed my factors of my denominator, which is 10. So the only numbers that go equally into 10 are 1, 2, 5, and 10. So we've done step 1. Now we need to do step 2. Find the common factors. Well, obviously the 1 they have in common, and then also the 2 they have in common. None of these other numbers are common factors. So we have found the GCF. The GCF is 2. So now the last step tells us you need to divide the numerator and the denominator by the GCF. So do to the top what you do to the bottom. So if we divide the numerator by the GCF, we're going to do 6 divided by 2. That gives us 3. And the denominator we're going to also divide by the GCF. 10 divided by 2 equals 5. And we go ahead and put our divider bar in there. And 6/10, if we simplify it, is 3/5. So this is the simplified version of 6/10, and they are equivalent fractions. So when we learned about equivalent fractions, we also learned the rule, do to the top what you do to the bottom. So you can see if we multiplied 5 times 2, we'd get 10. 3 times 2, we'd get 6. Okay, so we're going to practice simplifying fractions right now. So the first fraction we're going to look at is 9/15. And I've already gone ahead and done the first step, which is to list the factors of the numerator and the denominator. So here are all the factors of our numerator, 9. Here are all the factors of the denominator, 15. Okay? The next step says find the common factors. Okay? So I see that 1 is a common factor and 3 is a common factor. These are not common factors. So that tells us the largest number that they both have in common, the GCF, is 3. Okay, so I'm going to write that down, 3. And then our last step is divide the numerator and the denominator by the GCF. So we need to divide 9 by 3 and 15 by 3. So this is pretty simple division for you guys. You know that 9 divided by 3 is 3, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. So again, that same rule, do to the top what we do to the bottom. So 9/15, when we simplify it, is 3/5. This next fraction that we're going to look at is 8/18. So already I can tell that it's not in simplest form, because I know that I could divide 8 by 2 and 18 by 2. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've listed the factors of the numerator and I've listed the factors of the denominator. So now we need to go ahead and find the common factors, which obviously are 1, I see 2, And that's it. So the GCF in this case is going to be 2. So again, we have to do to the top what we do to the bottom. We're going to divide both by 2. So our numerator divided by 2, 8 divided by 2 is 4. The denominator, 18 divided by 2 is 9. If we wanted to simplify 8/18, our simplified fraction is 4/9. So I want you to go ahead and try 7/9 on your own. First, ask yourself, is it already simplified? If not, go ahead and simplify it. And we will practice this in class tomorrow. All right, so if you want to write down these steps, this is what we'll always do when we simplify fractions, so you'll want to include these in your notes. All right, have a great night, 4th grade.